Was she ill?
She's an old lady. She's falling apart, you know. Here we are. Be down the hall.
Abuela. What happened to you? What's up, guys? It's Katie Hettenbach, host of Katie Afraidy, and I'm so excited to chat with this amazing human today, the director of the new movie Rosario, and here is that interview.
Love it. Well, thank you for having me. Thank you for taking the time. Fantastic.
Of course. Thank you so much for chatting with me today. And first of all, we should say congrats on the movie.
Thank you. I'm so excited to get Rosario out there into the world in theaters May 2nd. So it should be fun.
Yes, congrats. You made also a good movie. You made a spooky movie that had moments that I as a horror fan, you know, we are hard to scare when we are diehard horror fans. You got me a couple times. So good job. Good job.
Love to hear it. When the horror fans like it, that was really who the movie was intended for. And, you know, audiences are so smart these days. They could see things coming from a mile away, or they've seen, you know, and hopefully this one takes some twists and has some scares that, you know, were a little bit unexpected from left field.
And that they were. So for some viewers who maybe have not heard of this movie or know what it's about, how would you describe this movie?
It is a grandma horror, or it's essentially it's the story of Rosario, super successful Latina in Wall Street, whose strange grandmother passes away. So she goes to the apartment, ends up stuck with grandma's corpse during the worst snowstorm in New York City, and spends a horrible night discovering all of grandma's secrets. Essentially, grandma had, you know, scars on her arms and legs, ritualistic scars, dead animals in her closet, secret rooms, ritualistic rooms. And it's really, you know, her grandma's death has unleashed this demon, and Rosario has to confront her family's secrets, her kind of past, to really survive the night. So that's all in the first 10 minutes. It escalates from there.
Yeah, this is like the worst day ever. First your grandma dies, and you got to go sit with her bot because they're like, hey, we got other stuff to do, and sorry, we can't come pick up the body. Oh, nightmare fuel. So what attracted you to this script?
So this was written by Alan Treza, who is an amazing horror comedy writer. He did We Summon the Darkness, Burn Your Ex. So I read the script. I thought not only was it super funny, but it had a ton of heart to it too. It was a story that really resonated with me. And it was just balls to the wall, nonstop roller coaster ride of horror. I saw Raimi in it. I saw Del Toro in it. And I knew that it was the perfect movie for me. And it was also Latino characters, like a multi-generational family, just like the one I grew up around, with all these kind of bombshell secrets once in a while. So it was just like the perfect fit. Some
secrets a little bit bigger than other ones. Now I have to ask, has a family member ever, grandparent, whatever, have they ever given you something, or have you found something weird in their house after they've passed and you're like, hey, why do you have this? Or, hey, thank you so much, but why are you giving this to me? Has that ever happened to you?
It's funny you asked that, because when I was making this movie, I had a chance to make it. It's a New York story. We filmed it in New York, but we also filmed it in Colombia in South America, where I was born, which was really cool. And when I was starting the movie, I raided my grandma's apartment to borrow all these props and things for the apartment in the movie is really like a reflection of my grandmother in some ways. And not the secret chambers or anything, but there were things I would find. And I'm like, why do you have this? Where did you get this? Like, creepiest music box in the world, straight out of Insidious, or is it The Conjuring? That little music box, like horrifying.
Oh my God.
Little dolls, little like rocking chairs, little tiny little African masks, very similar to the ones we used in the film. All of these things were in my grandma's apartment that she's been in for, I don't know, 30 years, 40 years.
What is it with grandmas and dolls? I just have to ask that. It's so creepy. So creepy.
Exactly. And like childhood dolls that she's kept around for 50, 60 years from, I don't know, World War II or whatever it might have been. And there are these amazing little trinkets we would put around on set. And I think that added a lot of little texture and life to the movie.
That's amazing. Now I feel like I have to go back and just like analyze the apartment and just watch for the little grandma Easter eggs. I love that.
Watch it. Don't point them out like, oh, this was this was that, because there's all these little details that I think, build out this world.
Now, has she seen the movie?
She has seen the movie. It's really funny. You asked, yesterday we did a screening in my hometown in Florida, where I grew up, and she loved it. Afterwards, she's like, that's nothing like me, but I really like the movie. I was like, oh, maybe it's a little more like you than you think, but
as long as you don't put a curse.
Exactly.
There's no curse. Then we are chill, Grandma. Then we are chill. That's amazing. So what was your favorite scene to film? And then what was the hardest scene to film or hardest day on set?
My favorite scene in the whole movie, a little bit of a spoiler alert, but she realizes that Rosario, the only way to end this curse is to put her own blood and her grandmother's blood in this ritualistic pot, right? So she cuts her finger. It's gross. The audience cringes. Then she needs to cut grandma's finger, but grandma has no blood left because she's been dead for hours at this point. So it escalates from there. How is she going to get grandma's blood? And especially with a demon trying to prevent that. That's one of my favorite sequences in the movie, something I'm super proud of. And in terms of the hardest scene to film, there were a couple of tough ones. I would say everything with the monster was tricky because it's 4 or 5 hours in prosthetics. It's extremely flexible and crawling like in very, very tight spaces. That chamber was full of dirt, real dirt. We would get out of there and we would just be covered head to toe in dirt and bones and all of these, like it just had a dark energy to it. So that was always a challenge, but a fun challenge.
Okay, that's awesome. And I mean, the dark energy it adds to, the creepy chambers. And I think we can feel that even as the viewer. So well done. The atmosphere was great for that.
Thanks.
And speaking of the creature design, how did you go about figuring out what it looks like? Because I think that's so fascinating, figuring out what, the creature in the horror movie is going to actually look like.
So Cobayinde is a real spirit from the Palo religion. So we had that to draw from. But in terms of how we visualized it, we looked a lot at the textures of these ritualistic items, the bones and the iron and the earth and the sticks. All of that was reflected in our monsters. It's really a creature that is so tethered to this culture and hopefully very unique. And we had different stages of it where it became more and more like this cauldron as the monster behind the mother figure that it's impersonating reveals itself a little bit more and more at a time. And it was also a reflection of Mom's experience. This creature takes on the form of a scorned spirit of a lost loved one. So it reflected Mom's traumas of being attacked by this dog and the scars and the barbed wire and the earth, and the snow because it was so cold. All of that is reflected in these creatures. All to say, I love creature design. We put a lot of detail and I worked with an amazing team that brought this spirit to life.
That's amazing. I keep saying that's amazing because filmmaking is amazing and this is amazing. I used to keep applauding because making a film is so hard and people don't understand that. They're just like, oh, it sucked. It was great. It's like, no. It's so hard to make a movie, and that from everything has so much detail, and you can just tell, even you talking about the creature design, that's the amount of love and care that got put into this is just perfection.
Thank you so much. As you said, it's an uphill battle sometimes, but it really is. We do it because we love it, and this was like an amazingly fun experience.
That's awesome. So, as a director, every set you do, you learn something new. Is there anything that this movie taught you, directing wise?
So much. I learned that worms are really fast. They will run away very quickly. And that you can also freeze worms. If you put them next to ice, they'll kind of calm down and chill out. And then when you heat them up, they'll start running around like crazy. And they love dirt. They'll burrow into dirt. They'll disappear. But it's funny, I made the mistake of shooting a worm extreme close-up as the first shot in the whole movie, day one, shot one. And these worms, there was a worm wrangler who had boxes and boxes of worms they'd grown for the movie. And they put, 100 worms on set and they all scattered. So for the rest of the movie, we're finding worms left and right. And our poor biologist worm wrangler is scooping them up with tiny little buckets. So that was a learning experience. But in all seriousness, like the whole experience was a learning experience. Like you really learn, how to go and prepare day after day after day. It's not like a short film where you're on set for 2 days. And it also, a pleasant surprise was just forming a very close-knit family with the crew on Rosario. Like by the end, you're all, just really close pals.
That's awesome. But the worms, so you end up like over the course of the shoot, did you find all of them, or are they still, some say they're still wandering the dirt?
They're still wandering. I'll find one once in a while. No, I think we found most of them, and our wrangler was really good at keeping count and scooping them back up where she could. But it would be funny because 2 days later you would find one, munching on the kitchen set food, or it would be, over in the chamber because there was so much dirt in there. They love the chamber. So yeah, they were kind of all over the place.
That's so funny. That's so funny. I mean, hey, I feel like it could have been worse. It could have been like cockroaches or something. Like worms, I feel like are just like, oh, it's a worm. It's not like jarring. You're just like, oh, there's a worm. Cool.
Yeah, cockroaches too, running around. I mean, those we took a little bit better care of because those are really fast.
Yeah.
But we had a couple of them on set as well. And then the funny thing was, though, our lead actress was like phobia terrified of worms. And there were so many worm interactions in this movie. We had to throw them on top of her in the vomit scene. And she had to pull them out of her ear in one really gnarly scene. So she stepped up, but it was a challenge for sure.
Oh my gosh. So how do you approach that as a director to, make sure they don't absolutely lose their shit during those times?
What can you do? Pretend they're gummy worms. Don't think about it. Think about something else. Think about it. But I think part of it also is working with stand-ins who step in for some of the things. We had a great stand-in who did some of the worm action, and just playing it cool. Trying to keep it as chill as possible. What's that thing like slow conditioning, where first you see the worms, then you poke them, and then you have them crawling on your face.
Yes, in that order specifically. That's amazing. How do you, as a director, go about working with actors? And do you have any advice about, because I have a lot of followers who are, trying to be directors themselves and, don't really know how to, you get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying, right? Do those interactions.
For me, my method, and everybody's different, but for me, I prepare a lot. I know exactly, why this character's in the scene, what they're trying to do, how they're going about it, what the blocking is going to be. But then you come in open-minded and you really have to listen and understand your actor, because each actor has a very different style. For example, Emerald in this film was not someone who needed to hear backstory or, research. She was like, let me just discover it. Let me snap in, do it, and I'll figure it out, because Rosario's figuring things out as she goes. Whereas someone like, let's say, Paul Ben Victor, who plays the manager, the super, you might not recognize the name, but you'll recognize the face. He was someone who would bring pages of ideas, and he would say, what if my actor does this or does that? What if he walks with this limp and he would put a rock in his shoe? A little bit more close to this kind of style where he really felt it out and felt the spaces out from the get-go, versus, let's say, David Dismalchian, who's a legend. He's one of the best horror actors of our generation, or actors, period. And he was someone who would tell me, Felipe, just throw out an idea or a direction mid-take, and I'll completely pivot my performance to do whatever you need me to do. And so, I would yell out like, use the chapstick, like, or try this, or do it this way. And he would improvise mid-take. And it was just like a master class of acting for me to see that guy work. So every actor is different. And I think that to me is the biggest takeaway. Like, just get a better sense of them as a person and what they need from you, because you're there to support the actor, not, force them to do what you saw in your head.
Yeah. The collaboration is so real. That's amazing with David. And that is truly a masterclass. That's amazing. And now I gotta think about that when I'm on set. I should just be like, throw something out. Oh, because David said it. Amazing. Amazing. David's such an amazing human. So as filmmakers and, people, we are perfectionists. And even when the film is done, we still are like, but if I would have had extra money here, an extra day or an extra hour, an extra worm, I wish I would have done this or would have changed this. Is there anything in the movie that you would have changed?
That's funny. An extra worm, more worms.
More worms.
Worms that are more directable that I can tell.
Exactly.
I'm trying to think. I think if I were to change something, I think with the horror scenes, I'm always like, for the next one, I'm going to go bigger, more blood and vomit and gore, and really take it to another level. That being said, I'm super proud of the film we created and then the story that we're telling, and I'm just excited to get it out there and get eyes on it.
Yay. I mean, you should be. You made a good movie.
Thank you.
I'm going to keep hyping you up. Made a good movie. Damn it. You made a good movie. So we have a few more questions. These are more just horror in general. What is your favorite horror movie?
That's a really good question. And there's so many classics. I think The Thing is one of my favorites just because of the special effects, makeup, and the creature design. Like, it really opened the door to really gnarly creatures and monster design. It's really like the modern monster movie. So for me, The Thing was a big inspiration. I loved the Giallo movie Suspiria is one of my favorites. The color it uses and the way it's not afraid to lean into a big jump scare and some gore and some really bright red. That movie is one of my favorites. And I love some of the old school Mexican movies. El Vampiro is one of the first vampire movies. La Llorona, the OG one, the US one, sort of. And then the Guatemalan one is like, wow, those are some classics. Mm-hmm.
I got to check those out. That sounds amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And the final question I have for you, and this is a very silly one. It's a take on the name of the podcast. Do you think audiences will be afraidy or not afraidy of your movie, Rosario?
I hope very afraidy, but also a little bit teary-eyed by the end, because I think it's horror with heart too.
Simple, effective horror with heart. I love that. I think that should be an entire subgenre.
I think
so. Amazing.
I think the best horror has something to say or makes you feel something other than fear too.
Wow. Quote it, print it. Amazing. Fango, put it on the cover. Let's go. I love that. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today, and congrats again on the movie. And I hope you don't have too many interviews after this, because I know they're exhausting, but thanks for chatting with me today.
Yes, this has been my favorite one, so all good.
You say that with everybody, don't you?
No, thank you so much, Katie. Appreciate you taking the time.
Of course. Have a great day.
You too. Have a good one.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much. That was such a delightful chat. And please go see the movie in theaters if you can. Please. And make sure to like, subscribe, all that jazz. Want a copy of Fangoria? Use code Katie Afraidy 25 for 25% off. Thank you to our sponsor, Filmcraft Studio here. You can find them at Filmcraft LA on Instagram or filmcraftla.com. And yeah, that's the episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and stay afraidy. Once the terms are met, Goyende will come to collect.